So to hit Carney, it could only be him, Donald J., and even then only because Carney, well, he really messed up. I found this word instead of swearing, and he messed up so badly that even his supporters were taken aback. If there are any left, yeah, subscribe to the channel. We're having a good time here, it's fun. Simply because the global mess is incredibly fascinating and unpredictable, it's even more interesting here than the stage of a carnival sideshow. So Canada, the Canadian-American conflict, a new chapter. Hooray. Carney stuck his head out to see what was happening, got punched in the face, and ducked back in. A few days ago, I gave the synopsis, and now I'm telling you what happened a few days ago. So, Mark Carney rushed to Beijing and kissed the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China. Well, I would say this. Someone who is much closer to him in spirit than, I won't say who I am, reported. Carney was incredibly happy to meet my new strategic partner.
Within a few hours, Canada announced a landmark trade deal with China. The deal provides for a sharp reduction in Canadian tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 100% to just 6%.
That is, it used to be 100% and now it's 6%. So, Carney, he decided to kill Canada's auto industry and leave 200,000 workers who work there without jobs, and plus about 130,000 people who serviced, that is, supplied something for the cars. That is 360,000 people, give or take, maybe 330,000 to 360,000, the numbers they mention in Canada. Well, they will end up unemployed in Canada, as I understand it. No, not right away. It happened gradually over 2 years, not all at once and without any means of support. What did Canada get for this? Probably something significant.
In return, China agreed to lower tariffs on Canadian canola oil from 85% to 15%, so Canada will be able to sell more vegetable oil. Meanwhile, China gets a loophole into the North American auto market.
The immediate question is, why did the Canadian government do this? After all, it's not just about manufacturing, but also servicing the parts. That means for years, when foreign cars come in, it's for years. Now the business comes from them, not from Canadians. Even the software will be Chinese. And Tesla, for example, starting from 2025 will pay 25% tariffs while China pays. 6% will pay, well, according to this promise, should pay, and Tesla pays 25%. Actually, there's a complicated calculation formula there. But the point remains that the Chinese will pay 4 times less at entry than the United States, and the buyer accordingly will buy a Chinese electric car for less. Maybe it will be of the same class, I don't know, but at least it will be much cheaper. Canada used to buy about 90,000, that is. About 90,000 Teslas were imported and sold in Canada per year. And now 70,000 Chinese electric cars will be imported into Canada. And this is just the beginning. And the main thing is that this will be dumping. Yes, that is, it's prohibited. World Trade Organization prohibited. But China does this every time, like clockwork, with the sole purpose of selling so cheaply as to destroy competitors and destroy the industry of that country. The automotive industry, in which in this case they are dumping cars.
Half of them are supposed to be affordable electric vehicles costing less than 35,000 Canadian dollars, which means flooding North America with Chinese government-subsidized vehicles designed to undermine American manufacturers.
That's what our Minister of Economy means. Scott Bessent said this in an interview, calling it an unfriendly act by Canada.
Some sectoral tariffs on Chinese goods, and we have a highly integrated market with Canada. In the automotive sector, he lowered the electric vehicle tariff from 100% to 6%. Goods may cross the border up to 6 times during production, and we can't allow Canada to become a loophole through which the Chinese will bring their cheap goods into the United States. We have the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, but it's going to be reviewed this summer. I'm not sure what Prime Minister Carney is doing here, except trying to show off his virtue to his globalist friends in Davos. I don't think he's doing the best job for the Canadian people.
Not long ago, as a punishment to China for dumping, for that very dumping, yes, meaning selling at prices below the cost of production, the United States and Canada imposed a 100% tax on dumped electric vehicles from China. The cancellation of this joint decision, well, I don't know. The only way to explain it is by showing America the middle finger. Why do they need, in my opinion, 70% if 80% of their trade is with us, with America anyway? So why irritate us, so to speak, Arsley, and show us the middle finger? I think the Canadians suffer from being too smart. Only from being too smart, really. What's the point? Carney doesn't want a Trump-style reshaping of the world. He's ready to submit to the communists to create a different order on the planet, something completely unlike Trump's way.
I believe that the progress we've made within our partnership prepares us well for the New World Order.
So what is this New World Order? Isn't it globalism?
But a new world order that abolishes national sovereignty, controls the population through surveillance and economic manipulation, and establishes a centralized authoritarian world government? These are exactly the characteristics we think of when we hear the term New World Order. Whether this is what he meant or not, who can say? But honestly, it wasn't the best wording. Despite this, then Carney flew to Davos for the annual gathering of the globalist elites after the China deal was reached. And he gave a speech that read like a declaration of independence from the United States. So, standing before the world's billionaires and bureaucrats, Carney declared that the old liberal international order would not return. He warned that we are not experiencing a rupture, but rather this is just a transition. He accused the United States of weaponizing economic integration. And he called on middle powers, such as Canada, to unite, because if we are not at the table, we will end up on the menu.
If we, as a middle power, do not take part in reshaping the world, we will be eaten.
So, Carney never mentioned President Trump by name, but everyone in that room understood perfectly well who he was talking about, who he meant. This was a direct jab at the America First policy. It was the globalist Prime Minister of Canada telling Europe, China, and all other countries that they needed to unite to counter this new American leadership in a world of growing civilizationalism. It goes without saying President Trump didn't keep anyone waiting long. He responded quickly. They allowed Balarka Kochichera.
As you understand, as Steve Turley just said, the music didn't play for long, the guy didn't dance for long when the owner came in, a bit surprised by the foolishness of his rather dim-witted neighbor. When you declare war, think about oligar, calm, oligar. Well, I mean, in war, it's like war, not like having tea with your pinky sticking out, because Tramp Pararamp won't let you down. So he wrote without much hesitation that he chickened out. First of all, he called Carney not a prime minister or president, but a governor. It gets even better.
If Governor Carney thinks he can make Canada a transit point for China to send goods and products to the United States, he is deeply mistaken. China will devour Canada alive, completely absorb it, including destroying their businesses, social structure, and overall way of life. If Canada makes a deal with China, it will immediately face a 100% tariff on absolutely all Canadian goods and products imported into the United States.
All Canadian goods will become exactly twice as expensive in our market. Well, that means no one will buy them, you understand, right? A 100% tariff means prices will go up by 1.5 times, maybe even double. No one will buy them. Absolutely no one. Except, of course, for the oil coming from Alberta. We won't raise anything there since Alberta wants to separate from Canada and become the 51st state of the United States of America. Why should we, as they say, put a spoke in their wheel or like put a bicycle under their feet? Wait, why a bicycle under their feet? Where did I come up with that? Besides, Trump sent Kashney a letter saying he is not invited to the Peace Council. So basically, we're withdrawing the invitation. Trump withdrew his previously sent proposal. So leave our sandbox. Mean boys aren't welcome here.
Trump published an official letter withdrawing Carney from the council. So these more than 30 countries that are part of the Peace Council are excluding Canada because of their governor and our prime minister, right? In other words, you're fired, Mark Carney. You're fired, and demoted from prime minister to governor.
As you can imagine, Carney isn't exactly happy right now. But Trump didn't want to make him happy. Trump had a different goal. He wanted Canada to see what happens when being in the driver's seat means actually being in charge. They choose foolish leaders to be continued.
Trump will negotiate, make deals, but as soon as there's talk about dismantling American power and getting closer to communist China as part of some globalist plan, Nesawandan na. Now the moment has come when the hammer falls, and trust me, it's heavy. Canada and the United States share the largest trading relationship in the world. $3 billion in goods and services cross that border every day. 75% of Canadian exports go to the United States, while only about 3% of ours. And what do you think Carney did after that post on Truth Social, when 75% of their exports could have been hit with 100% tariffs? Guess what he did? He blinked.
Carney had two options left, actually just one, the easiest and simplest one. And honestly, we would really welcome that. Either to hang himself or maybe jump from the 200th floor of some building built by Americans, or just say he was joking.
By Sunday, a subdued Carney was forced, I quote, to clarify to journalists that Canada, I quote, does not intend to sign a free trade agreement with China.
Canada, as we understand, never intended to have any close relations with China at all. What are you even talking about? Not at all? And the reduction of the tariff from 100% to 6% was, well, just a joke, by the way, just a joke. Well, it happens. People make silly jokes. Sometimes they act silly and they joke around too. He forgot to say he was sleepy, drunk, not himself, and had argued with his wife, kids, mistress, maybe even his lover and the train conductor. So, well, it wasn't really him, but his double. I mean, obviously nothing like that ever happened, because it couldn't have happened, really. It just couldn't have happened. You'd have to be a complete idiot, just a total idiot, for something like that to happen.
Within a few hours, Canada announced a landmark trade deal with China. The deal provides for a sharp reduction in Canadian tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles from 100% down to just 6%, which is a 94% decrease.
I believe
That the progress we have made
within the framework of our war.
is preparing us for a new world order.
Well, I mean, there won't be a new world order like the one just announced to us by the Prime Minister, now the Governor of Canada. Because the janitor came with a broom and said, well, get out of here.
Oh, that's just incredibly funny. Just one post on Truth Social, and this failed, disgraceful governor sets up China and completely backtracks on the entire agreement. This, my friends, is what is called great power politics. This is, essentially, a great power reminding a less powerful state, what Carney calls a middle power, of its complete and absolute dependence, both economic and military, on its relationship with this very great power.
When all you can do is bark and nothing else, there's a piece of advice from smart people, not from me, since I'm not that smart. As we learned from viewers' comments, Malbrook should only go to war when he's actually ready for it. If you're not ready, then don't claim you're going on a campaign. And if you do claim it, you look ridiculous, foolish, and pathetic. And like smoke. Suddenly, oh, I was just joking, haha. Canada doesn't like that the United States wants to prepare for a new world war, for a possible new world war. And to prevent it, we need to deprive all potential enemies even of the dream, the possibility, the dream that they could reach us. And that's why we are creating a neutral zone of about 2,000 miles around the shores and borders of the United States of America. Well, what can you do if you're unlucky and your border isn't with China, Russia, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, or Hamas, but with the United States of America, and your second border is with Alaska, which is also the United States, by the way. And soon it will be Greenland. Poor Canadians will also be the United States, well, at least part of Greenland. So what should Karabakh do inside the United States of America? And some of your fellow soldiers are also planning to leave you hanging, Alberto, and run over to the United States and join those very people who have oil. And you, knowing all this, say to the bear, the grizzly, you say, I don't care about you, Bear Grizzly, and you don't even have any weapons, pitchforks, I don't know, anything else. You don't even have a hammer in your hands. So I do whatever I want because I'm independent. Well, sure you're independent, you can say that, but what about in reality? They asked Pomodor Gruzunov if he liked tomatoes. He says, I like to eat them, but otherwise, no. Well, sure you're independent, you can talk about it, but otherwise, no. And that's after the bombs, he says, in Iran and the attacks on that very Maduro in Venezuela. Well, you really have to be such a jerk. Carly seems like a fool who's gotten carried away and also arrogant. Arrogant? How do you say it? Arrogant. Gonorrhea is something else, yeah. You, arrogant one, I'm not afraid of you, but out of fear, I'll wet myself.
Carly learned this lesson the hard way this weekend. What Governor Carly found out was that Trump wasn't just protecting the American auto industry. He was drawing a red line against that very new world order that Carly called for. When globalist leaders speak at the Davos Forum and openly declare that the old world order will not return, and that they needed to get closer to major powers like China in order to counter the rise of the United States as a civilization state. Trump heard this loud and clear, and he taught Carly and everyone else in Davos that America is playing big in this new civilizational world order and beyond. We will not allow a direct competitor in our hemisphere, but you will no longer live off the economic and military power of American citizens. Those days are truly over.
There will be nothing more for either Canada or Europe. Nothing is free, and payment is not always necessarily in money. For example, with Israel, payment is made with different kinds of brains. Payment is made with inventions, joint developments, intelligence sharing, and joint resistance. Any attempt to destroy our past, our foundations, our future, our Judeo-Christian civilization, what is common, what is ours. That's all for today, gentlemen. Thank you very much for listening, and until our next wonderful meetings, where we'll also have fun, laugh, and enjoy ourselves.